Who let the old lady onto the shooting range? A group of young soldiers burst into laughter watching the silver-haired woman holding a weathered bolt-action rifle. If she can actually hit anything, I'll clean latrines for a week. But when she took aim and squeezed the trigger, crack. The bullet pierced through 3 targets in a perfect sequence. A recruit whispered, voice trembling, "Sir, that's Phantom Strike." Setting: Blackwater Training Facility, Nevada Desert. Home to the Elite Marksman Selection Program for Special Operations Units. Setting: Blackwater Training Facility, Nevada Desert. Home to the Elite Marksman Selection Program for Special Operations Units. A woman in her 50s, petite frame, slightly stooped shoulders, wearing a worn olive drab jacket, walked into the shooting range area. She carried an ancient Winchester Model 70, stock scarred and wrapped in faded camouflage tape, the kind of weapon that belonged in a collector's case, not on an active range. A young lieutenant approached her. "Ma'am, do you need assistance? This is a restricted military area." She simply replied, "I just want to fire 1 round. It's been a long time since I've held a rifle." A group of recruits standing nearby erupted in laughter. "Bet she learned to shoot at bingo night. Grandma, don't forget your reading glasses." One soldier deliberately handed her an M4 carbine with the safety still engaged, bolt-locked, testing her. She said nothing. Checked the weapon, released the safety, assessed wind direction, and stood up straight. A recruit, still laughing, "If you hit anything, I'll volunteer to scrub the armory for a month." But something in her posture changed. The way she held the weapon, the way her breathing steadied, the way her eyes focused downrange. This wasn't an old woman playing with guns. This was someone remembering something important. The targets were set at 400 meters, advanced qualification distance, but the recruits had arranged them in an unusual pattern, thinking it would be impossible for a civilian to hit even one. 3 steel plates offset at different angles, the kind of setup designed to test expert marksmen. She raised the rifle. No electronic scope, just iron sights that looked older than some of the recruits. The moment she squeezed the trigger, crack. The bullet flew with impossible precision. It struck the first plate dead center, ricocheted at the exact angle needed to hit the second plate, then deflected perfectly to ring the third target. 3 hits, 1 bullet, a technique that most elite snipers considered theoretical. The range fell silent, except for the echo of metal ringing. The recruits stopped laughing. The supervising officer's jaw dropped. Even the range safety coordinator looked confused. Someone whispered, "How is that even possible?" Comment, "So unfair if you've seen skilled people get disrespected." After the shot, tension filled the shooting range. An officer immediately ordered, "Civilian personnel must vacate the restricted area." The woman quietly packed her rifle, nodded, and left without protest. No anger, no demands for recognition. But one recruit, Marcus, a tactical analysis specialist, started getting suspicious. Marcus pulled out old training manuals about Phantom Strike tactics from 2003, studying multi-target ricochet techniques. On a faded page, he saw a photograph of a young woman with piercing eyes standing next to a Winchester Model 70. The face looked remarkably similar to the elderly woman who just left. Marcus whispered, "No way." He ran to report to his squad leader, "Sir, I think that woman was actually Phantom Strike." The squad leader burst out laughing. "That's just a legend, kid. Phantom Strike isn't real, just a nickname for elite soldiers from the old days." But that evening, Marcus reviewed the range security footage. The thermal imaging showed something incredible. She hadn't used any electronic sighting aids, but she'd calculated wind drift and recoil compensation perfectly. The next morning, Marcus dug deeper into classified archives he wasn't supposed to access. What he found made his blood run cold. Operation Shadowfall 2004, Phantom Unit Female Sniper Team, Classified Casualties, Team Leader Major S. Chen, Status KIA. But if she was killed in action, how was she here? He found a partial mission report. Phantom Strike achieved impossible shot placement under enemy fire. Confirmed neutralizations, 31 high-value targets. Unit extracted under heavy casualties. Team leader status unknown. Another document, mostly redacted, ricochet technique demonstrated in combat conditions. Bullet trajectory analysis defies conventional ballistics. Recommend further study. Marcus realized something profound. This wasn't just any old woman. This was a legend who'd been erased from official records. That night, he approached the senior drill instructor. "Sergeant, have you ever heard of a sniper who could make bullets change direction?" "Kid, that's physics-defying nonsense." "But what if it wasn't? What if someone actually mastered ricochet ballistics in combat?" The drill instructor paused. "I heard stories from Iraq. Soldiers talking about a female sniper who could hit targets around corners. But those were just stories, stress and imagination. What if they weren't stories?" The drill instructor looked at him seriously for the first time. "Son, if even half those stories were true, that person would be the most dangerous marksman alive." Marcus spent the weekend researching everything he could find about Phantom Strike operations. Most files were classified beyond his clearance level, but he found enough fragments to piece together a picture. A female-led sniper team deployed to the most dangerous zones, impossible mission success rates, and then nothing. No records after 2004. But the most chilling detail was in a medical report he shouldn't have been able to access. Survivor exhibits signs of severe PTSD, refuses military honors, requests discharge and anonymity. Suddenly, everything made sense. The woman at the range wasn't seeking attention. She was hiding from it. Comment, "I was wrong," if you've ever completely misjudged someone's background. The next morning, the commanding officer received orders from higher command. The civilian marksman from yesterday is Sarah Chen, former major, call sign Phantom Strike. She commanded Phantom Unit, the only all-female sniper team deployed during Operation Shadowfall 2004. The base immediately assembled all personnel. Sarah was invited back for a demonstration exercise. Comment, "I was wrong," if you've ever completely misjudged someone's background. The next morning, the commanding officer received orders from higher command. The civilian marksman from yesterday is Sarah Chen, former major, call sign Phantom Strike. She commanded Phantom Unit, the only all-female sniper team deployed during Operation Shadowfall 2004. The base immediately assembled all personnel. Sarah was invited back for a demonstration exercise. Sarah appeared, still wearing the same worn olive drab jacket, still carrying the cloth-wrapped Winchester. Standing before 150 soldiers, she straightened up, eyes forward. "I'm not here to compete. I'm here to remind you that some tests don't need anyone to write the questions." The challenge: 3 randomly moving targets, changing position every 4 seconds. Sarah took aim, 1 shot. All 3 targets hit through indirect trajectory. No second shot needed. A staff sergeant whispered, "Only Phantom Strike knew that technique. Curved bullets were supposed to be myth, but she just made it real." Sarah rolled up her sleeve, revealing a faded black and silver insignia. Phantom Strike 024, the only unit to survive the Fallujah ambush in Iraq 2004, but erased from official records due to classified mission parameters. An older man in the crowd stepped forward, a retired colonel who'd been the commanding officer who'd ordered her discharge 18 years ago. His hands shook, eyes filling with tears. He approached, stood at attention, and saluted. "Major Chen, I'm sorry for letting you live in silence for 18 years. The crowd murmured. This wasn't just any marksman. This was the marksman. The one from the stories soldiers told but never quite believed. Sarah's voice was steady but quiet. "Sir, you did what the mission required. Some operations need to stay buried. But the cost to you? The cost was mine to pay. I made choices that saved lives and choices that haunted me." The silence was healing. A young recruit raised his hand. "Ma'am, why did you come back after all these years?" Sarah looked around at the faces watching her, young soldiers just like she'd been once, full of confidence, untested by real combat. "Because I saw young people laughing at things they didn't understand, and I remembered being young like that. Before I learned that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room looks like the least dangerous." The commanding officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, would you consider training our advanced marksmen? Your techniques could save lives." "My techniques were learned in places you hope these soldiers never have to go, but if it keeps them alive—" She paused, looking at the recruits who'd mocked her. Then, "Yes, I'll teach." One of the soldiers who'd laughed at her earlier approached. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. I didn't know." "You weren't supposed to know. That was the point. But now you do know that respect isn't earned by appearance, it's earned by what someone can do when everything is on the line. The retired colonel spoke to the assembled troops. This woman saved more lives than any of you will probably see in your entire careers. She did it quietly, efficiently, and then she disappeared, because that's what the mission required. Sarah added, "The hardest part of being a soldier isn't pulling the trigger, it's knowing when not to, and knowing when to step back so others can step forward." A recruit asked, "What's the most important thing you learned?" "That the best shots are the ones you never have to take, but when you do have to take them, make them count." Sarah declined all official training positions. "I've done my part. It's time for younger people to write the next chapter." But every week, she returned to the range, not under orders, just to clean rifle scopes and help soldiers who were struggling with their accuracy. She taught without manuals, without PowerPoint presentations, just simple corrections. Breathe deeper, squeeze slower, respect the weapon. During these quiet sessions, she would share small pieces of wisdom that seemed insignificant but proved invaluable in the field. "Your rifle is not a tool," she would say. "It's an extension of your intention. If your intention is unclear, your shot will be too." She taught them to read the desert wind by watching dust patterns 300 meters away. She showed them how to calculate bullet drop by observing the flight patterns of birds. She explained that the most important part of marksmanship wasn't the shooting, it was the stillness between heartbeats. One recruit asked her about the famous shot that made her legendary. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, then said, "I didn't make that shot because I was the best marksman. I made it because I understood that sometimes one shot has to count for everything. When you're protecting something precious, you don't get second chances." One day, she didn't come. On the stone bench behind target number 4, there was an old piece of paper, handwriting slightly trembling. "Don't aim to hit the target if you don't know why you're pulling the trigger. Phantom strike." From that day forward, the range was renamed Chen 024 Shooting Complex, for those who don't need to be known but cannot be forgotten. 3 months later, the Advanced Marksman program had a 45% higher success rate. 6 months after that, soldiers trained at Blackwater were outperforming snipers from other bases. When asked about their superior training, they all said the same thing. "We learned from Phantom Strike. She taught us that shooting isn't about the gun, it's about the person holding it." A year later, a small memorial plaque appeared near the 400-meter line. Some legends are too important to remain stories. But the most important legacy wasn't on any plaque. It was in the dozens of soldiers who learned that true skill doesn't need to announce itself, that the deadliest person in the room might be the quietest one, that respect is earned through competence, not conversation. Today, military instructors across the country still teach ricochet techniques that originated with Sarah Chen. They don't know her name, don't know her story, but every time a soldier makes an impossible shot, every time someone succeeds against overwhelming odds, every time skill triumphs over assumption, her legacy lives on. Not because she wanted fame, but because she understood that true mastery means teaching others to surpass you. Be like Sarah. Let your actions speak louder than your words. And when people underestimate you, show them what quiet competence can accomplish. Comment, "I'll live better," if you believe legends can hide in plain sight. Sarah Chen Phantom Strike didn't need newspaper coverage or viral videos or ceremony stages. She just needed an old shooting range and young people who hadn't lost the ability to respect experience. We often mistake silence for weakness, but sometimes the quietest people are the ones who once protected an entire generation's right to speak. If you meet someone who doesn't talk much, don't rush to judge. They might have already protected everything you're living for. Look closer. Listen better. And remember that the most dangerous person in the room might be the one everyone ignores. The most skilled person on your team might be the one who never mentions their qualifications. And the most important lessons often come from people who've earned the right to stay quiet. Honor the quiet ones. Learn from them. And when your moment comes to prove yourself, let your actions do the talking. Because true legends don't need their names in lights. They just need to know that what they taught kept people safe. Comment. She spoke through action. If this story changed how you see quiet people. Years later, new recruits still train at the Chen 024 complex. They hear whispers about the woman who could bend bullets around corners. Most think it's just another military legend. But the instructors who were there that day know better. They know that sometimes the greatest warriors are the ones who choose to fade into the background. Sarah's techniques became standard training across multiple military branches. The Phantom Protocol, her method of achieving impossible accuracy through environmental awareness and mental discipline, was classified and distributed to elite units worldwide. Her legacy lived not in monuments or medals, but in the improved survival rates of soldiers who learned her methods. The old Winchester she carried that day was eventually donated to the base museum, displayed with a simple plaque. Some legends are written in books, others are written in the lives they save. And sometimes, on quiet afternoons when the desert wind carries dust across the range, you can almost hear an old Winchester being cleaned in the shadows, a reminder that some legends never truly leave. They just teach others to become legends themselves. The range stays busy, the targets keep falling, and somewhere in the distance, Sarah Chen's greatest victory continues. Young soldiers learning that true strength doesn't need to prove itself. It just needs to be ready when called upon. Comment. Never underestimate if you'll think twice before judging someone's capabilities. Because at the end of the day, the most dangerous person in any room might be the one everyone overlooks. The most skilled person on any team might be the one who never mentions their resume. And the most important lessons often come from people who've earned the right to stay quiet. Remember Sarah Chen. Remember Phantom Strike. Remember that legends don't always wear uniforms or carry medals. Sometimes they just carry old rifles and the weight of stories they'll never tell. And when you meet someone who doesn't talk much about their past, don't rush to judge. They might have already saved your future in ways you'll never know. Final comment prompt. Respect the quiet ones. If this story changed your perspective on underestimating people,